maybe the first question is, when you come into a new company and when you have a project to lead, and when you have tens of stakeholders already pinging you all the time, how do you organize in these times when you are overwhelmed, when you have too much things to do per as always I say, a square second? So how you actually organize yourself there?
So I guess it might be at least partially individual on how one approaches that. My personal approach to that would be to step away, so detach from the actual problem, put it on a piece of paper or in a file, wherever you prefer, and then give it a priority. And it might be that you don't know what matters the most or least. So the task would be to figure that out. Generally speaking, at the beginning, at the start, one of the most important things is to figure out who do you need to talk to. Understanding who are the stakeholders, what are their roles, what is their stake in the whole project. As mentioned, who is the audience. You might not see certain stakeholder, get in touch with a specific stakeholder, like I didn't get in touch much with senior management from the client side in my HR projects. However, they do influence a lot how your projects will develop, and that needs to be taken into consideration. That's why stakeholder maps exist, and mapping influence of the stakeholders makes sense to do.
Absolutely, and I think that's right, right on point, especially for the team. I would say colleagues in our industry that are just joining, and to understand that stakeholders who are directly working with you on the project are not the only one, right? So you have a lot of stakeholders who are not directly participating in your meetings, but are influenced, as you said, by your project, or can influence your project, right?
Yeah, exactly. And maybe a couple of examples. What tends to happen if you have external projects, what external means is that something was sold to a client. So there is a contract, there is a maybe defined date in that contract, defined scope. Usually what organizations do is, based on the value of that contract, they will, relative to other contracts they will assign you better or not so good resources, or bigger amounts of resources, making sure that they win more business, let's say, with that specific client. So in that sense, you have a leverage that says the contract I'm working on is valuable, so I can use certain resources. On the other hand, if projects are internal, which in many cases means that you have changing scope, scope creep, basically. What that could mean is that you might need to negotiate with the resource himself, is to get his full attention on the project, or negotiate with his manager, because it might be important for the organization but not for the resource. So there are differences in what in those terms, if projects are external or internal.